My name is Kyowu, and I am doing my final art presentation on Claude Monet. Claude Monet was a French painter who rejected the traditional style of landscape paintings and founded the Impressionist art movement. Impressionist art was focused on painting what the eye sees rather than what the mind interprets from the scene. This style differed vastly from realist art, which was a leading movement before Impressionism was introduced. Impressionist artists use small dabs of color that appear to be strokes of paint when viewed close up, but create vivid images when seen from a distance. Monet studied the changes of light and color throughout the day and between seasons, and depicted these changes in his paintings. He often painted series of paintings. Claude Monet was born on November 14, 1840, in Paris, France. In his youth, he drew caricatures of citizens in the town he lived in, which was displayed in an artist's material shop in 1856. The owner of the shop became Monet's first mentor. He encouraged Monet to abandon caricature and instead paint landscapes. In 1861, Monet was sent into the military, but was soon released after by his aunt. Once he returned to France, he began to study with the famous artist Charles Gleyre in the studio. At the studio, Monet met Basile Renoir in Sicily. In 1870, Monet married his wife Camille, and they moved to London. In London, he became more interested in the English artists Joseph Mallord, William Turner, and John Constable, who inspired Monet's study of color. In 1874, an article written by the critic Louis Leroy dubbed Monet as an impressionist. The name was used to make fun of artists, but after it was used a few days later in another article, the name stuck. In the late 1870s, Camille got very sick. She died in 1879, leaving Claude alone with 2 children and little money. His mourning for his wife reflected in his paintings in the early 1880s. By the end of the 1880s, Monet's financial state began to improve. He was getting increasingly popular around Europe and was very popular in the United States. His works were displayed in the Armory Show and exhibitions in Chicago and Boston. One of his most popular series was the Water Lily series, which was painted in the late 1990s. In 1923, Monet developed a tumor on his left eye and became very ill. He died on December 5, 1926. This painting, The Departure of Boats, depicts people on land staring off into the sea with many sailboats sailing off. Monet creates a balance between the ocean and the land in this painting. He achieves this by using many neutral colors on the land for the sand, buildings, and people, and contrasting these neutral tones against the brighter greens, yellows, and reds in the ocean. However, there are some bright colors on the land, which are shown in the windows of the buildings, and there are neutral colors above the ocean and the sky. This balance between the 2 colors unify the entire image. There is also a contrast between light and shadows. In the water, Monet painted darker shades of green near the boats to mimic their shadows. This can also be seen in the structures in the middle of the painting, as highlights are added to one side of the roof and shadows are added to the other side. Monet also achieves texture, especially in the ocean, with its contrast between light and shadow. The highlights on the water give it a glassy looking finish. Lights and shadows can be depicted on land as well. Shadows of people and lighter shades as highlights indicate a muddy ground. Because the land is so filthy and the people are looking towards the ocean, I think Monet may have been trying to express people's desire to travel and discover. The bright color of the ocean and sails may represent new opportunities. This painting is called A Bridge Over a Pond of Water Lilies, part of Monet's famous Water Lily series. In this painting, Monet depicts balance through symmetry. The bridge is very symmetrical, as well as the amount of vegetation around it. A prominent aspect of this painting is how Monet portrays the light. The background has lighter values, making it appear as if the sun is shining down on it, and making it look more open. As you look closer to the foreground, of the painting. The values in the water and vegetation are darker. This implies shadows from either the bridge or the trees around it, blocking the light. I find the way that Monet painted light on the bridge is very interesting. The light is reflecting off the furthest railing, which implies the sun is behind the perspective of the viewer. Monet painted a series called Haystacks, which was devoted to the haystacks and wheat stacks in his property in Germany. These are around 2 of the 30 paintings Monet created in the series. Comparing these 2 paintings, it is clear to see how Monet portrayed light and color and the changes they made throughout the day. In the morning painting, there is a red hue to the wheat stacks, especially on the areas where the sunlight is hitting. The snow has a red hue where the light hits as well, which gives the ground texture. On the other hand, the haystacks in the sunset picture have more of an orange hue. The orange is especially apparent in the snow, as it looks as though the snow is reflecting off the orange in the sunset. The colors in the morning painting are much lighter than the deep, rich colors in the sunset painting. There also seem to be more shadows in the sunset painting, making singular shadows less distinct, whereas in the morning painting, the shadows are clean and are contrasted by the light color snow. An aspect that's emphasized in the sunset painting is the sky, which is painted a bright orange and stands out amongst the shadowy scene. Comparing these 2 paintings is a great way to see how Monet emphasized changes of light and color at different times of the day. Claude Monet was a French artist from the 1860s to the 1920s. He is well known today for being the founder of Impressionism, a style characterized by using small streaks of vibrant colors to create an image when viewed from a distance. He painted mostly landscapes, which were often collected into a series of paintings that focused on how the light and color change in the same scene throughout the day and year. One of Monet's most famous series is the Water Lily series, which people still admire to this day.